All right, so we're back live on the teleconference line as well as the live stream to do the second half of the service, which is Joshua chapter 8. Right, so now we're following up after the Most High caused Joshua to go and rid sin from out of the nation that was causing us to be taken down by our enemies at that time as we was going to conquer the land of Canaan to make it ours, because that was the promised land that the Most High had dedicated to the children of Israel. So now this is Joshua chapter 8 and 1. It says, and the Lord said unto Joshua, fear not, neither be thou dismayed. Take all the people of war with thee and arise and go up to Ai. See, I have given into thy hand the king of Ai and his people and his city and his land. And thou shalt do to Ai and her king as thou didst unto Jericho and her king. Only the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof shall ye take for a prey unto yourselves. Lay thee an ambush for the city behind it, right? So now it says, do the same thing that you did to Jericho. When you went into Jericho, do that to Ai. But in this case, you can have the spoil thereof. Before, when you read in Joshua chapter 6, verse 21, it says, and they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox and sheep and ass with the edge of the sword. So we went and killed not only just the people, not only just the people who was of age, even the kids. We didn't just stop there. We killed all the animals, right? Now the Lord's saying, you ain't got to kill the animals. You can take the spoils of war on this trip, right? It says, and lay thee an ambush for the city behind it. So not only are we just going to all go out, y'all got to be tactful. That's where they get military aggression from, as far as for how they plan their attack. You're not just going to go in and just fight. You're going to consider and spy out the city and say, okay, cool. We're going to leave a group of soldiers over here, but we're going to also go and do this over here on this side. So the Lord said, the way we're going to conquer this one is we got to lay an ambush, lay a trap, right? So y'all going to be hiding and waiting while the other soldiers go on this side. It says verse 3. So Joshua arose and all the people of war to go up against Ai. And Joshua chose out 30,000 men of valor and sent them away by night, right? So he took way more than what they had initially said to have, which was like 2,000 or 3,000. Now he done sent 30,000 out. Verse 4, and he commanded them, saying, behold, ye shall lie in wait against the city, even behind the city. Go not very far from the city, but be ye all ready. So he set a group of men in a certain section on the outskirts behind the city. Don't do anything till the time appointed. Be on guard, be ready for the signal. Verse 5, and I and all the people that are with me will approach unto the city, and it shall come to pass when they come out against us, as at the first, that we will flee from before thee. So the same thing that happened, or before them. So the same thing that happened the first time when they went out, the Most High took the spirit from them and they all got fearful and they ran. So they got confidence now. These men is like, man, these children of Israel, man, they ain't nothing. We're going to do the same thing that we did before. So now Joshua is saying, when we first go to the city, we're going to present ourselves and then we're going to run and they're going to chase us, right? When they come to chase us, y'all waiting in the ambush, then y'all going to come out, right? So that's how he's setting up the strategy. Verse 7, then ye shall rise up from the ambush and seize upon the city, for the Lord your God will deliver it into your hand. All right. So while they chasing us, the city gonna be left. Y'all go there and y'all destroy it and take what y'all want.
The way he did it was very smart. But they did it before they ran. Right? He said we're gonna do the same thing, and they're gonna think it's like the first time.
Yep, exactly. And they're gonna come out and chase us again. All right. Verse 8. And it shall be when you have taken the city, when you have taken all the spoils, you got the cattle, you got slaves or what have you, got gold, silver, because y'all can take it now. when you have taken the city, that ye shall set the city on fire. According to the commandment of the Lord shall ye do. See, I have commanded you, right? So the Most High is now giving that order, and they had already established Joshua, who was like king in that time, but he wasn't ordained a king, right? The first king was Saul, but he was now the new leader, like Moses was the leader. And it tells you that Moses was king in Jeshurun. He wasn't an anointed king, but he was set up to be like the leader or the figurehead. Verse 9.
He didn't have the elaborate, palace and stuff like that.
All right.
But a ruler is pretty much a king.
All right.
A ruler, he rules over the people. That's
right.
Pretty much.
Right. The difference what happened with King Saul, and everyone after it, when Israel wanted to have a king, the Most High was upset because he said, I was your king. But now if you want a king like the other nations, all right, cool, I'm going to give you a king. Samuel was upset. Most High said, Samuel, stop. That's what they want. They're not disrespecting you. They're disrespecting me. But let them know that the king that they're going to choose is going to take your land. It's going to take your best men, because they're going to be in his army. They're going to be in his palace. He's going to take your best bakers. He's going to take your best vineyards. He's going to take all of this stuff. It's like he's going to tax y'all, because that's how the nations exercise. They got to get the best land, the best vineyards, the best maids, the best confectionaries, the best this, all of that they're going to take from among you. And they say, yeah, that's what we want.
And that's a measure of wealth of the king.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's why, Yahushua would have everything.
Right.
Because that's when you see kings, sometimes they go flood their wealth to this other country.
Right. The interesting thing about that, when you look at it, because with the temple of the Most High was supposed to be the conduit or the reflection of the Most High on earth. When King Solomon dedicated the temple, it was supposed to be the Most High's temple. But Solomon said, I know the Most High can't dwell in the building, right? But let this be for a dedication to you, that we would come and do the sacrifices. And the Bible tells you that that's the most elaborate temple in the whole world. When Solomon built it, and even when King Herod and them tried to upgrade it, when you read in the New Testament and Romans, it said it took them 40-some years to upgrade it, not build it, but to upgrade the temple. 40-something years, right? But I tell you, that's the most famous temple, the world renowned. And then after Christ died during 70 AD, it got taken out. Christ said no stone would be on another stone. It's going to have to be all redone in the kingdom of heaven when he comes back, right? It says, verse, what did I leave off? No, verse 9. Verse 9, it says, Joshua therefore sent them forth, and they went to lie in ambush and abode between Bethel and Ai, on the west side of Ai. But Joshua lodged that night among the people. So remember, if I still had a picture here, I don't have the screen turned on. So here is where they are on the map, right? So here they are, Jericho, and then here's Ai. The most Joshua had the men on this west side of Ai. They're on the east side. So they're going to come up and present themselves here on the east, and they're going to run like they're going back to Jericho. And then those that's on the west side are going to come in and take the city, right? So that's the strategy. All right. So now, verse 10, it says, and Joshua rose up early in the morning and numbered the people and went up, he and the elders of Israel before the people to Ai. And all the people, even the people of war that were with him, went up and drew nigh and came before the city and pitched on the north side of Ai. Now there was a valley between them and Ai. And he took about 5,000 men and set them to lie in ambush between Bethel and Ai on the west side of the city. And when they had set the people, even all the host that was on the north of the city, and their liers in wait on the west side of the city, Joshua went that night into the midst of the valley. And it came to pass, when the king of Ai saw it, that they hasted and rose up early, and the men of the city went out against Israel to battle, he and all his people, at a time appointed before the plain. But he wist not that there were liars in ambush against him behind the city, right? So the strategy is now in play. Joshua comes into the valley, shows him and his forces before the men of Ai. They, like the last time, now get all the men that was in the city to come out and fight against Joshua. Joshua then is going to turn tail and run, right? And everything is going to come to pass because they are not paying attention that that's what's set up in this ambush. Verse 15, it says, and Joshua and all Israel made as if they were beaten before them and fled by the way of the wilderness. And all the people that were in Ai were called together to pursue after them. And they pursued after Joshua and were drawn away from the city. So they left their wives, they left their cattle, they left their goods, they left everything. Everybody charged with their swords and everything else to go chase after Joshua.
Right. The game plan was to drive them away from their city as much as, as far as possible.
To leave it defenseless, right? Verse 17, and there was not a man left in Aor or Bethel that went not out after Israel. And they left the city open and pursued after Israel. So now it's just not Ai. It said there was nobody left in Ai or Bethel. So all of these men from both cities came out to come and chase after Joshua and the men that had now fled as if they had been defeated. Verse 18, and the Lord said unto Joshua, stretch out the spear that is in thy hand toward Ai, for I will give it unto thine hand. And Joshua stretched out the spear that he had in his hand toward the city. So that was like the signal, right? That was a sign that the Lord used to direct the men now that was in ambush, now that the city is yours, right? So the Most High did that with Moses. Take your staff, and now you touch the brim of the Red Sea, it's going to part. He didn't have to touch the brim of the Red Sea, but the Most High told him to do that as a sign. Joshua did the same thing when they came to the Jordan River. He said, listen, once the feet of the priests touch the brim of the Jordan River, it's going to stand up on heat, just like it did during the time of the Red Sea. And that would be the sign that once that happens, then it was going to take place.
It's like the Most High's word is, as a king word is law. Once he says it, it becomes law. It can't go back. So when the Most High says to do something, automatically it becomes the law.
Yep.
That's why when the Most High tells Moses to talk to the rock, no, he didn't talk to the rock, he didn't observe that law, he knocked it. So the king's word is law. Right.
And that's why you have that perspective within Israel. The priest, the Levitical high priest, was like the Most High, almost in a sense, on earth, because he was the closest thing set up and established out of the nation of Israel to be that go-between to do the offerings and atonement for the nation. Then you had the king. So you had two figures that were deemed to be like the highest figures within the nation. One from the Levites, the other from Judah. The king and then the Levite, right? So now when you look at both of them, the Most High was ingenious to say, I'm going to have a man take on both of them, which was Christ. Because you read in Hebrews that Christ now took on the order of Melchizedek, and he became the high priest. And he's also King of Kings. So you have two different high entities within the nation that's now merged into one, right? So in verse 19, it says, and the ambush arose quickly out of their place, and they ran as soon as he had stretched out his hand, and they entered into the city and took it and hasted and set the city on fire. So they didn't even wait. As soon as they seen that spear drawn, like he said, make sure y'all be ready. It was more than ready. Verse 20. And when the men of Ai looked behind them, they saw, and behold, the smoke of the city ascended up to heaven, and they had no power to flee this way or that way. And the people that fled to the wilderness turned back upon the pursuers, right? So now when they're running, and all of a sudden he's smelling, look back like, yo, the city's, our home is on fire. Our wives, our children, our cattle, our possessions, everything is on fire. Who did that? Yo, we got caught out there. So now when they was wanting to run, they ain't got nowhere to run, right? So now Joshua now realizing that the men is now aware of what had just transpired. Now they about to stop, turn around, and charge back on these Hamites from the people of Ai. Verse 22. Salak, verse 21. And when Joshua and all Israel saw that the ambush had taken the city and that the smoke of the city ascended, then they turned again and slew the men of Ai. And the other issued out of the city against them. So now here it is. They got those that's in the city and all the men of Ai that was chasing Joshua. And then it goes Joshua and they men. So Joshua and they men stop, turn around, and they slaughtering the men at the front of the battle here. Then the men that's in the ambush out of the city, they come up out of the city and they coming on this front to get those that was on it. So they now boxed in, right? Verse 23. And the king of Ai, they took alive and brought him to Joshua, right? So he's, you know, usually when you watch certain, pay attention to certain wars, if the king or the leader does go out to war, because nowadays the leaders or the kings, the top generals, they don't go out to war. They go out to war, but they hidden in the back, right? They back at the, you know, where everything is cool, where they well protected. During this time, men like Joshua, men like David, they went out and they fought with the rest of their men, right? So when they went out, they captured King Ai and they took him alive, but they killed everybody else. Usually a king like that is you know, brought back to the city and he's made a mockery of, right? They got him as a hostage. He's tied up. They rolling him through the city. People seeing him, they throwing stuff at him. They spitting on him. They doing all kind of stuff, right? They're making him a mockery and a shame to show them and say, look, this man that was so powerful, this man that made the earth to shake when he was ruling, look at him now. He's crying. He's begging for forgiveness, right? To now give the people more confidence that whoever now is their ruler, which was Joshua, the Most High was with him, right? It says, and it came to pass when Israel had made an end of slaying all the inhabitants of Ai in the field, in the wilderness wherein they chased them, and when they were all fallen on the edge of the sword until they were consumed, that all Israel returned to Ai and smote it with the edge of the sword, right? So now after they started burning things and they finished destroying and killing these soldiers, they went back and finished the job, right? They got rid of everything. So this shows you, remember, this is ordained by the Most High. When Israel first came into their holy land, they had to go and kill people. They had to fight. The Lord said he left those nations amongst us to prove us, to teach us war. So it ain't about all, you know, dandelions and roses with the Most High. The Most High said, nah, y'all got to learn how to fight, man. Y'all going to have to kill some people to get y'all land back. The Most High said he's a man of war. So what did he do? He raised up these men and go out the one. He said, kill everybody. You know, it's easy when you can kill a soldier that's you fighting against. But it takes a different mind to say you're going to go kill men and women and kids, right? Think about it, you got a sword and you slicing a woman and you slicing a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. That's not something that you just take lightly. This is the scripture. This is the Most High, right? And then you burning everything, right? That takes a real man of war like King David to go out there and execute those same practices, right? So this is verse 25. Check it out. It says, and so it was that all that fell that day, both of men and women, were 12,000, even all the men of Ai. So it was about 12,000 people that got killed in that war during that time when they took the city. Verse 26. For Joshua drew not his hand back, wherewith he stretched out the spear, until he had utterly destroyed all the inhabitants of Ai, right? So this is like when Moses was fighting and Moses' hand was raised, and they said when Moses' hands dipped down, they started to lose the battle. And then the men came and helped him keep his hands up, right? So now it says the same thing. When the Most High ordered Joshua to raise his spear, Joshua had his hand raised with the spear all the while until they had finished slaughtering and killing everybody that was in the field, that was in the city, right? Say again? Just like Moses' arm was tied. And when Moses' arm got tied, they came to help him keep his arms up because it was symbolic.
And they put a rock on it?
Something like that. They had to keep it stood up because even me, sometimes I'll be cleaning stuff and I got to hand my hand up and I'm changing a light bulb. After about 40 seconds, I'm like, man, my doggone arm getting tired. I need to work out a little bit more. And you got to drop your arm, take a break, then come back and do it. Imagine you got your men out there slaughtering people and you got to wait till they looking around, looking at the battlefield, and they ain't seeing nobody left alive. I watch a lot of Game of Thrones. When you watch Game of Thrones, they went to the battle, they walking through the camp and they checking, making sure men is dead, and they stabbing them again, and they doing this again. The guy's laying there, he ain't dead. He's you got to walk through and make sure everybody's dead, right? Before you can claim victory, because the Most High said you got to do to that city the same thing you did to Jericho, which was get rid of everybody, right? It says, verse 27, only the cattle and the spoil of that city Israel took for a prey unto themselves, according unto the word of the Lord, which he commanded Joshua. So that was the only thing that they could take for themselves, right? So now you got some sheep, some goats, bullocks, bison, whatever was there back then that was lawful that you can use for yourselves, then that's what they took. Verse 28, and Joshua burnt Ai and made it an heap forever, even a desolation unto this day. So that's like when you go to certain areas and they got the archaeologists and they be digging, then they find a city. And we were trying to figure out, well, what's this city, right? Because now it's been uninhabited, and then time and process happens, and then it's just, dirt and stuff comes, sand come, and it gets fossilized, and it's down, buried maybe 10 feet deep. And they digging and they finding it. And they're like, what is this? And then I got to go to the scriptures. They'll use the Bible to go and search different regions out, because the Most High said that this was in the area between Bethel and Ai. So just like I showed on the map where it's proximity to Jericho and where this city is, then they'll know and say, oh, this is that ancient city Ai that Joshua and them destroyed and burnt with fire. We see some of the relics of the city here, right? Look, that was a house over there. Look, you can see that they must have had a temple or something over there, the way it's constructed, and they're starting to piece this all together. And then they have now found the area that was now called Ai at this time, and it was left a heap forever and a desolation, meaning it was never inhabited again. That's what it says is going to happen to America, right? It says when the bombs drop, let me get that real quick. This is Isaiah 34, I think. Right. This is Isaiah chapter 34. I'm going to start at 5. So it says in Isaiah 34 and 5 says, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Remember, we just went through in the class about there's different heavens. Let's see which heaven is he talking about. Isaiah 34:5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, upon the people of my curse to judgment. So now we're talking about a nation that's in the earth. Idumea is who? Edom, right? It tells you that Idumea and Edom and Esau are all the same people. So the Lord said he had a curse upon this people, that they were going to have to receive this judgment. So the Lord says, my sword is going to be bathed in them. Verse 6, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood. it is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fat of the kidneys of rams. So now the Lord is making this symbolic to like how the priests would sacrifice animals on the altar. There's going to be a great sacrifice happening in this place, the land of the Idumeans, right? The Most High is going to have a sacrifice. It says, for the Lord have a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. So now you even see further, like when it talks about heaven, that this heaven is in the earth, it's in the land. They're going to have to be destroyed by the Most High and his angels in Christ, right? It says, and the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. So now it's using animals to symbolize the different contraptions and weapons of war that's going to happen in the earth. It says unicorns down with bullocks. It's not just talking about animals is coming. Even today, we use cars to symbolize animals. They'll say, listen, my car got 416 horsepower. The car ain't a horse, but you call it a horse. You saying my car has this much power that it can do such and such. That's what the Most High, that's where they get this from. The Lord said, when I come, when the angels come, they're going to be coming and ransacking. It's going to be blood everywhere amongst these Idumeans who we know to be Edom. It says, why is this happening? Verse 8, for it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. So the Lord's saying this has to happen in the earth because you reap what you sow. It is a recompense. When you do something wrong, you got to recompense somebody back for that wrong that you've done, right? You got to say, look, we brought y'all in slavery. We did this for 400 years. That's just this captivity. When we was the Greeks, we did this to you. We forced y'all to not keep y'all laws. We forced y'all to say that you can't call yourself a Jew no more. When we was the Romans, we did this. During that time, we slaughtered Christ. We killed and murdered him, right? So all of this is now the year and time of recompense. The Lord is going to bring all of this to a head on that day. Then it says, and the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become a burning pitch, right? So when bombs, like when they drop the atom bomb in certain areas, when you come back and you look at the land after it, you see smoke just ascending from the dirt because of the excess of the atom, the bomb, and everything that was there when it hit, that radiation, all that stuff, those fumes is just going to be coming out the land. So the Lord already prophesied in the New Testament, Old Testament, and Apocrypha that something is going to be hitting the earth in certain areas to cause this to happen. I'll read it again. And the streams thereof shall turn into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become a burning pitch because of what's going to happen from the lake, which burneth with fire and brimstone. Isaiah's talking about the same thing. Now check this out. It says, it shall not be quenched night or day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever, from generation to generation. It shall lie waste. None shall pass through it forever and ever. So when that time comes, this land that we in, when the Most High brings that destruction to what we know as Babylon, Idumea, Edom, the great city, whatever different names or titles the Lord has for it, when that happens, it says it's going to be burning forever. There's going to be smoke coming up from different areas in this land. If you ever really looked at America, North America, it's a big land, man. It's a big land. Like you just be in Philly. But when you get up and you get in the plane and you way up above the clouds and you start coming down the clouds and the pilot says, yes, we're flying over Chicago. And you look and it's like, damn, this is Illinois. This is just Illinois, the state of Illinois, and I'm flying just over the city, Chicago. I can't even see Cali. I can't see Texas. That's how vast this land is when you come up off the earth. This whole area, according to this, because this is the capital place for the Idumeans, is going to be burning forever. It said it shall lie waste forever, meaning no one is going to come back and rebuild a building here or open up a business or establish a city, never to be inhabited. We'll read it again. It shall not be quenched, nor night or day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever. That's how you know that this is prophetic, because there's no place on the earth where you can go and you say, yeah, that's what I read in the Bible. I'm looking at it. It's been smoking like that since 1932 or since 1958. No, we haven't seen it. The Most High says his word don't go out void. You gonna say something?
Yeah. It's like this right here. It's mystery.
Right. This is a mystery.
It's a mystery.
Yes.
So you say that to people in the church.
They don't know.
They
don't see that. They don't know who Idumea is. They don't know who Edom is. So from the first verse where it says, it shall come down upon Idumea, you say, who's Idumea? I don't know. So then, yeah, it's going to go over your head.
This was prophesied by Isaiah.
Yeah.
Right? Christ wasn't even here.
Yeah, this is 1,000 years ago, before Christ, right? Well, hundreds of years before Christ.
Now, the rest of the European nations, how's he going to get them?
They got it, just like we read in Isaiah 14. And we shall take them captives, whose captives they were. We got to leave.
They're not going to burn up.
No, they're not going to burn up, because all of the nations have to fulfill that judgment, because all of them had us in captivity. So they all now have to be servants and handmaids for the nation of Israel. Some of them will have to be destroyed. Same way some of us will be destroyed in that time, right? Some of us are going to have to be destroyed along with the other nations. So you're going to have some that's going to feel the fire over here, because it's just not going to happen over here. It's going to happen mainly here in Babylon, or modern day Babylon, but it's also going to happen in a few other places, but it's not going to be fulfillment of this, where it's going to say, oh, this smoke is going to go up forever and ever, because this is talking about Babylon is going to now feel this. That's what John the Revelator saw in the book of Revelations as well.
Like Basra, that's not part of Babylon. This is somewhere else where the white people live. Right?
No, but when you look at it, Basra is still symbolic of Edom.
Okay.
Right? Idumea, Basra, because these names, when you look at it, these names of Idumea, when you look at ancient times, the Idumeans lived, or Basra was still over in the Middle East, right? It wasn't here in America when they said, oh, Edom is Idumea. They weren't living over here at the time when they were classified as that. This is talking about them now establishing this as their home, their capital, their mainstay home, right?
That's going to be here too.
Right. Because remember, it says that for the Lord have a sacrifice in Basra and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. So it's talking about their establishment here.
Okay.
Right. Now, because if you look at it holistically, Edom is Edom. So now, like you asked the question as far as for what about Europe? Well, they're all throughout Europe. They're in the United Kingdom, Ireland, and all these different places. So then you would say that it would have to be all of those places, because all of those places is Idumea, or the Idumeans, right? The Idumeans live in all those places. But this is mainly speaking about Babylon the Great city, Babylon.
And when you look at it, a lot of work has been done.
Right.
Right, to get to that. Talking about all the way back to the time of Isaiah, which when you read the Old Testament, starting from Joshua to Malachi, it's all about the preparation and the announcement of the king, which is Yahushua, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then Yahushua came, he did some work, and he went back to the Most High. Work's still being done to just bring in the kingdom.
Right. So I'm going to just read one more verse, and then I'm going to jump back. It says, but the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it. The owl also and the raven shall dwell in it. And he shall stretch out upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. So it's not going to be inhabited by man anymore. The Most High is going to have some of the scavengers left in this land, right? This is why when we get into the dietary law, when we start understanding the makeup of some of the animals, the the living garbage cans that the Lord has created, that they are able to withstand certain things, right? To be able to stand that radiation and then still stay here. And they're going to be probably picking and eating the carcasses of the men that died. It tells you that. The Lord says he has a carcass that's going to be left for these animals. So when you start thinking that I'm going to go eat this animal, this bird, whatever it is, because it's good for meat, and then you start looking and thinking like, man, for a raven or an owl to still be around during that time, and now to be now eating the flesh and the carcasses of radiated men and things there, their body has to be of a different sort, right? So the Most High said, don't eat those things. Don't eat no scavenger birds. Don't eat no scavenger animals, because I put something in them that, you know, they got something that your body ain't good for it to eat. So that's what we're reading here in Joshua, how the city was destroyed and it was left unheaped forever and ever, right? The difference here is in AI, it wasn't burning forever and ever, right? It was just not inhabited and it was left as a memorial. This one is going to now have a sign left on it. So if any, like, it's like we're going to be able to get in the chariots. We might get in the chariots and fly over it and look like, damn, look at Babylon. I used to live right there. I remember I used to live right there. Yeah, that used to be Jersey. That used to be DC right over there. Yeah, look at it. We caught up. Yeah, may not. We caught a lot of hell down there. We caught a lot of hell when we was there during that time, right? Back to Joshua.
That's why I mean talking about this. You don't want to, not want to make it after you learn all these things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. This is where it says, and after you read these things and you see what's to come, right? Most people don't know what's to come. Most people are saying, oh, I hope Biden win. I got to get Trump out of office. That's as far as you thinking, that we don't want to have that guy in office. But you ain't seeing what else is coming. He ain't nothing he can do to stop this. Whether you got Biden there, whether you got Trump there, whether you had Obama, I don't care who's there in office, that is not going to stop what is going to come, right? So it says in Romans 15, it says Romans 15 and chapter 4. And so Romans chapter 15, verse 4, it says, for whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning. So as we're reading it, we learning. Oh, that's what's going to happen to this place? Wow. And then after that, the Most High is going to come and redeem the righteous men who've been trying the best of their ability to live according to his will. Word. Like, you mean to tell me that all that's happening to us right now that we see in these streets ain't for naught? Word, right? It says, for whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope, right? Again, it comes back to what? Patience. We through patience and comfort of the scriptures. It's comforting to read the things that have been before me, the things that are coming after me, and what I need to do right now, because you could be left without knowledge. And then, like it says, those who are left without knowledge are left fearful. Your life is in doubt. Your life is in the balance. But those of us who are in this truth, who understand these scriptures, we have more confidence in the Most High now. We have more structure in the Most High now. Two more. 1 Timothy's. Two basic ones. 1 Timothy's 2. Sorry, 2 Timothy's 2, 15, right? 2 Timothy's 2, 15. The Most High said, study to show thyself approved unto God. So just like you was in class, you a student. You got to study to show to your teacher that you retained what he taught you. You got to take a test. The Lord has tests every so often. You know, I go to class and the teacher give you a pop quiz, and you come into class, you're like, all right, hey, yo, you see the game last night? All right, everybody sit down. Got a pop quiz. Pop quiz? Damn, I didn't even read last night. I ain't check out the chapter last night. Hey, I told y'all I could give a pop quiz whenever I want. Everybody sit down. Boom, here it is. And now you taking the quiz and you scratching your head and you nervous. Like, damn, I'm going to get like a 40 on this test, man. I don't know none of these answers, right? So the Lord said, study to show thyself approved unto God. So God ain't just going to come and give you some written test. He's going to give you a test when you walk out there. You remember you heard how a man's supposed to operate, and now he gives you a confrontation or a situation. Boom, you in the test. And you got to choose wisely, choose righteously. And then if you don't, you done messed up, right? Damn, I done failed on that, right? Say again?
Go back to the
You got to come back to the book. Man, I got to come back and study again. Let me read this, right? So study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, right? So we all workers in here. We all have a job to do. So it says if you study, you like a guy who goes out to a job and you've been given a task and you're now the electrician and you went to school, but you didn't pay attention and you now someone's apprentice and the apprentice leaves you to finish a job that you should know how to do, but then you don't. So he goes to the store to get some supplies and he comes back and he looks and says, man, what the hell did you do? You just jacked this man's house all up. And he like, I don't know. I thought I was fully talking about. We just talked about this last week, right? So it says a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, because when you are now at a job and you don't know how to do your job, somebody gonna call you out, right? Your boss, your manager, your supervisor, they're gonna get on you. And sometimes they'll get on you in front of everybody, really making you embarrassed, right? They may say, listen, you know what? Yo, go home today. Come back tomorrow. And you walking through you grabbing your stuff and you walking by and you don't even want to look at nobody. You were head down because you ashamed because you didn't know what you're supposed to know. That's why the Most High is saying this has to be. It says, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Like we said, precept upon precept. You got to be able now to understand how to go from here to here to here to here, where it all lines out. Each man individually has to have that understanding and has to have that skill to rightly divide the word of truth. Because if you don't, guess what? Somebody gonna come and put you on Front Street, and then you might be made feel ashamed, right? That's what we don't want to have. So to not to be made ashamed, the Lord said you got to study to show yourself approved. Not the Samak, not the Pequod, not the Corey, not the Gabar, but to who? The Most High God, because he's the judge. He's the one that's watching. He's the one that sets up the test, like he did Job. Satan, go down there and do this to Job. He sets that up. Don't do this to him, but you could do that to him. You're going to see what he's going to do, right? That's what we all go through every day, every moment, right? You're going into Burger King and you want to get in a Whopper Junior number such and such, and all of a sudden something break out in Burger King. There you go. Everybody, the angels ain't looking at you, everybody, he's looking at you. What you going to do? What you going to say? You going to leave? You going to intervene? You better come back to here. You better remember these precepts to understand what is the best thing for you to do at that waning moment. You slip up, then yeah, you don't fail. You got to say, damn. And everybody's their worst critic. You will always be thinking about yourself in past situations. You be like, damn. I should have said this, man. I don't know why. I knew I should have said something. Now you're regretting, right? Because you didn't do it when you had the opportunity and you're regretting. You're saying, dang, I should have done that, man. I messed up. I hope I get a better opportunity. Don't worry. Most High gonna give you many opportunities to fix it. He's gonna have you in certain situations. But before you get there, you gotta study.
It's like you gotta, it's a challenge when you in the physical and you in front of everybody. Teaching or whatever, teaching the word, right?
Right.
And it's kind of like when as you're teaching the people in front of you, you want them to get what you're trying to convey according to the scripture. But at the same time, who you're working for, if you can get that right, most of the time we'll try our best to do the best job we can. Because the boss is the Most High. It's like you're at the job,
right?
You're working for the boss,
right?
So you got to give a report when you finish,
yeah,
right? Even though you're working with the workers, but at the end of the day, you got to give a report to the boss. But if you're performing just as if you got to report to the Most High at the end of the day,
right,
you'll be more apt to do a good job.
Right. And the funny thing, as you say that, is you use that as an analogy, and you said you got to report to the boss, but you got coworkers with you.
Right.
Coworkers know who the weakest link is.
Right.
So coworkers try to help out that weakest link, right? Because if not, you know what usually happens if somebody ain't pulling their weight. You know what's going to happen? They're going to put that person's burden on your shoulders. Right. It's like, all right, you got to go home. But the job still got to get done. All right, Patak, I might need you to stay a little late today. You might have to extend your shift today. You're like, but I got to go home. I had an appointment with my wife. We're supposed to go out to dinner tonight. Not tonight, brother. We got to get this thing done. You're going to have to, have to postpone that. Right. You serious? Yeah, you have to postpone that. This job still got to get done, right? So now you got a decision on your hand. You're going to say, man, I ain't doing that. I got to go home. Listen, I'll come see you tomorrow. A word? Okay, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. And then you come in tomorrow and you're like, all right, listen, I need you to come to my office. See, we need to make some cutbacks, right? We need to make some cutbacks. And you're like, cutbacks? What are you talking about? Yeah, we got to let some people go, right? And now you confused as to why you about to be let go because you ain't pull your weight, right? You're supposed to pull your weight and you didn't. That person got taken out because he didn't study. He was just messing up, right? So now if some of this work falls on you and if you're not willing to pick up the slack, then maybe this ain't for you. So you might have to just take a side, right? Somebody else going to pull up that weight. Christ gave us that parable with the parable of the talents. Somebody had 10 and they did 20. Somebody had 5 and they did 10, right? So now those who can make sure that they can do more than what they're given, Christ said, okay, take that, what he had, and give it to that guy, because that guy going to do that work. He's going to get the job done. He studied, he was fervent, he was ambitious, and he did what he needed to do to please his boss. The boss, in this sense, is the Most High in Christ. You got to do what you need to do to please your boss, right? Are you going to mess up here and there? Yeah. But you can be honest and say, listen, I messed up, but I don't worry about it. I got it. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to come back. I'm going to stay a little later and fix this. Show yourself approved unto the Most High God. That's what this is, right? So every time you mess up, you say, okay, I was doing this an hour a day. I was going out there for an hour feeding the homeless, but I fell into some lust, or I fell into some temptation. Show myself to the Most High that I'm about, instead of me doing for an hour, I'm going to do 2 hours now. I'm going to go out there and do 2 hours, man. Maybe 3. To show that I'm really, that's kind of that righteousness that the Lord is looking for.
When that's straightened out, you'll find that, you don't need nobody on your shoulder.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, the boss already knows, most already know what you can and cannot do.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Now you can't bribe nobody. I mean, you can't bribe me, but when you got to report to the Most High, it's a different game.
Right. Where is that? I forget. Where is that in Corinthians? Lord doesn't give you
more than you can.
Yeah. I know it's in Corinthians. I forget. Somebody find it. Just holler to me a little bit. Let me finish. Go back to Joshua. So we back in Joshua chapter 8, and we at verse 29. It says, and the king of Ai, he hanged on a tree until eventide, right? So they went and took his body and hung it on a tree until eventide, when the sun was about to go down. Why did they do that until the sun go down? Because this is law, right? In Deuteronomy.
What you were looking for, 1 Corinthians 10:13.
Come, 1 Corinthians 10:13. So this is what it says in Deuteronomy chapter 21 and verse 22. Right? It says, if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. So within that day, from even to even. So if a man does commit a sin and he be worthy to be put to death and you hang him on a tree, he can't hang on a tree from one day to the next, right? He got to be on that tree until that day comes to an end. So that's what Joshua and them did with this king. They hung him on a tree until eventide. So right at that time when the sun's about to go down, they went and took his body off the tree. Same thing with Christ. When the Romans put Christ on the tree, right? He was hanging on the cross and he died up until gave up the spirit around the time in the afternoon. Then who came? Joseph of Arimathea, and asked for the body of Christ to take him down off the cross before eventide, right? The Romans is the one that's in authority, but it didn't stop Israel from remembering the law. that he can't beat up there like that. So he went and petitioned to them and said, listen, can you give me his body? Can you give me his body? I want to go bury him. And they took his body off the cross to keep the commandment so that Christ would not be anything sinful or accursed out of the scriptures. He was complete in everything. So now, going back to Joshua 8:29, it says, in the king of Ai, he hanged on a tree until eventide. And as soon as the sun was down, Joshua commanded that they should take his carcass down from the tree and cast it at the entering of the gate of the city, and raised thereon a great heap of stones that remaineth unto this day. So somebody, going through this area, archaeologists probably went, found a area where it got a lot of rocks piled up on each other. If they remove those rocks, or somebody removed those rocks and they dug down, they see bones buried underneath the rocks. And then if you're wise, you can go and look and say, where there was a man that was put to death outside of the city. If we dug up the whole city, we see what the city is. And then we can see that these stones and this one body has to be the king Ai. His spirit went back to God, who created it, because his spirit didn't come from the devil. The devil didn't create the spirit. The Most High created the spirit to be what it is. So he has to go back to the Most High and then fulfill whatever the Most High wants. Like we read with Jeremiah. Jeremiah said, I didn't want to go out and be a prophet. Jeremiah, the Most High said, listen, I knew you before you ever came through the womb. I ordained that you was going to fulfill this mission, right? The Most High has the same thing for wicked men. You was going to come and be a wicked man. You was going to come and be a liar. You was going to come and be a deceiver, right? The nation that the Lord created, he created them to be that way, right? Not according to anything that they did, but it was his election. Remember, he wrote the story. Man's goings is of the Lord. So man's inspiration to write a movie that has a hero and a villain, where did he get it from? The Most High. Most High has a hero, which is Israel, and a villain, which is Edom. He set that up, right? And then all the other nations that are round about. The Lord says that they are like unto what? Spit. The nations that he created, he says they are like unto spit. And you read that, you say, hold on, man. That don't even sound right. Why would, hold up, pause. Why would the Most High create nations and then hate one above everybody else, let alone think that other people that's not Israel is like unto spit? See, you brothers like dividing people. That's only divisive, right? That's only divisive. That's not joining us together. We should all come together. But then when you read the verse, then now it's not left to man. That's the Most High. That's his prerogative. The thing that's created can't buck up against to the thing that is the creator, right? You a pot. The pot gonna say, why you ain't make me a little bit smaller? I ain't want to be this wide. I wanted to be smaller. You gonna go say that to the potter? No. You're just gonna do what you have been created to do, right? Reading on, verse 30. Then Joshua built an altar unto the Lord God of Israel in Mount Ebal. And Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded the children of Israel, as it is written in the book of the whole law of Moses, or the book of the law of Moses, an altar of whole stones, over which no man have lift up any iron. So you read the law, when you made the altar and you took stones, you couldn't chisel. It had to be unearthed as it was. So that's why it says that no man lifted up any iron to it, right? It had to be whole like it was. And they offered thereon burnt offerings unto the Lord and sacrificed peace offerings. So after the Most High delivered the city of Ai, they set up an altar there to worship the Most High and offer up sacrifices, right? And thanksgiving, because that's what the Most High said is pleasing in his sight at that time, right? At that time, that's what the Lord was really loved at. You go and do a good thing and you want to now thank me? Go offer up these type animals of this type year in this type fashion. You got to salt it. The Lord said, I'm going to give you an agreement of salt. Every sacrifice got to have salt on it. You come and you sacrifice an offering and got salt on it. I don't want it. You disobeyed my commandment, right? That's how attention to detail the Most High is. Verse 32, and he wrote thereupon the stones a copy of the law of Moses, which he wrote in the presence of the children of Israel. And all Israel and their elders and officers, their judges, stood on this side the ark, and on that side before the priests, the Levites, which bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, as well the stranger, as well as he that was born among them, half of them over against Mount Gerizim, and half of them over against Mount Ebal. And Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded before that they should bless the people of Israel. So then this is establishing now order throughout our generations, wherever we are, in all our habitations, right? Israel had to know the law. That's what established the city. So you had to get this and write this down and recite it in the eyes and ears of the people.
That's what I was saying service, right? The law established a city.
Right.
The law established a community.
Yep.
Established a country. Without law, you cannot have a country.
Right. Now, and not just any law, because one will look at it and say there's laws in this country.
Right. I mean,
I know what you see. Yeah, the law of the Most High, right? Because the law that's established in this country don't benefit everybody, right? At one point, we wasn't even human. We was 3/5 of a human being. So we know that the Lord didn't benefit, that law didn't benefit us, right? It was made for someone else. That's why the Most High gave us this law. This law was made for us.
Even with that, this law is wicked. At the same time, just to show you that the Most High is not a lawbreaker, he abide by law. Even Yahushua, when he had to pay taxes,
right,
he went and paid his taxes.
Right.
Just to show you, I have tithes too in my law.
Right.
Right. So I'm telling you to keep my law. They have their law doing how they have taxes, so you abide by that law.
Right. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Verse 34. And afterward he read all the words of the law, the blessing and cursings, according to all that is written in the book of the law. So in that, if you do good, this is what the Most High is going to do for you. If you do bad, this is the curse that is set up that's going to happen to you and the nation. Certain laws were now to each individual person. I mean, certain curses were to each individual person. And then there were certain curses that presided over the whole nation, like going into slavery by slave ships. That was a curse in Deuteronomy 28:68 that the Lord put on the whole nation. And then there's other individual ones that would happen to just individual people or their families. Verse 35. There was not a word of all that Moses commanded, which Joshua read not before all the congregation of Israel, with the women and the little ones and the strangers that were conversant among them, right? So anybody that was conversant, because you had other nations, like during the time of David, he made trade with some of the Hamitic nations, but they now needed to understand our law, right? We now needed to understand, because the Most High told us that he didn't destroy all the nations. He definitely wasn't going to, because he still needed to prove us. So now while we're there keeping the law, if you dealing business with somebody, they need to understand how you operate. It's like, listen, we're going to make a trade. I need trees. You need fruit or grapes. We're going to make a trade. All right, I'm going to give you this on this day. When you going to bring me the trees? Oh, I'm going to bring it on Saturday. Nah, you can't bring it on Saturday. Why can't I bring it on Saturday? Because the Saturday is my Sabbath. So now, as you are conversing with people, they need to understand that, right? So that they don't come messing up. And here they come with their pulleys and everything else rolling into the city. And you over here worshiping the Most High. They looking, you like, yo, what the heck is this? And they roll in. Well, you ain't telling me that I couldn't bring it today. So here it is. It's today, right? That's where the Most High now had everybody understand that, right? Nehemiah 8:8. So as Joshua is reading this law amongst the whole people, and he says there was not a word that Moses gave that he didn't read before the people. This is what he did. Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 8. It says, so they read in the book in the law of God distinctly and gave the sense. and cause them to understand the reading, right? So a person that's set up like Joshua, like Ezra, like Nehemiah, and all these men that were set up to teach the law, they had to go and read it distinctly, meaning line for line, precept upon precept, and then do what? Give the sense, meaning let me have you to understand what's going on here, right? That's what their job was. That's what their order was.
I was gonna say that, the children of Israel, wherever we might be, if we're not keeping the laws of the Most High, we won't be able to function.
Right.
Correct.
All right, Kun. So that concludes today's Sabbath service lesson in Joshua 7 and 8.
I had a question. I was starting Isaiah, which you quoted earlier. What chapter was that?
34.
34 and 6.
Yeah, started 34 and 5 all the way down to, I stopped at 11. So next week, we should be in the book of Acts. Chapter 14 and 15. Acts chapters 14 and 15 for next week's Sabbath service lesson. All right. So with that, we're going to close out the Sabbath service. Most High's will, everybody was able to get the scriptures, the understanding. If not, make sure you write them down. Write down your questions. Come bring them to the Tuesdays and Friday class, and we can go through a little bit more in depth. All right. So with that, we're going to say shalom, peace to all the brothers and sisters watching the live stream, listening to the teleconference. Always give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High in Christ for knowledge, wisdom, understanding, for the covering, for the defense, right? And for guidance that we need in these last days, right? Also for health. We know we got some people who are going through some health issues. Most High he'll reach out, send Rapaya Allah or the angel Raphael. When you read it in Tobit, the Most High created the angel Raphael. He was the healing angel, right? So it was his order that, him and those that was like him, they went out and healed the people. Remember, Tobit got blind and the Most High had him, take that off of him. So Lord's will, if anybody going through something, the Most High will send out the angel Raphael or Paya Allah in the Hebrew to go and heal those of their illnesses in the spirit of the Most High. All right. So with that, we'll say shalom, and we'll stay tuned for the closing prayers. Somebody get the blinds. Robert Kashah. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Natalanawa, Par Yahagabin, Thawada Amun, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ath, Yasha Ella. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, or the Most High, in the name of Christ, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. Imadu upon you all Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Baba Kushah, Shemai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yum Yun, Aitha, Shalat, Mayaka Allah, Waha Alahayim, Tazwa Dakin, La, Shemal Ayah, Barak, Rapah, Magun, Wahakaziyak, Bunya, Yasha'Allah, Washalat, Lanawa, Rabium, Kakama, Rabium, Da'ai, Rabium, Bayana, Rabium, Sabalanwa, Rabium, Amawan, Rabium, Aqua, Rabium, Ahabium, Rabium, Haganah, Rachanaya, Wasalat, Ko, Kata Ayamnawa, Laha'akim, Wa Akiwa, Wa Yasha'Allah, Samyad, Wa Ulam, Wa Shum, Yahawashai, Fawada, Amun. English translation. Most High, in the name of Christ, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers or angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Four Corners Prayer. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Wayasha'Allah, Wabat Yasaparim, Shema, Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Achad. All right, English translation. Most High, in the name of Christ, bless us and Israel and the house of books or the different schools throughout the four corners. And Deuteronomy 6:4, hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. All right, so with that, we'll say Shalom, Ashar Shabbat, Most High's will. Everybody has a Tawab or blessed remaining day. Peace.
Shalom.